Hello, and welcome to my talk, Let's Break Some WCAG Rules. My name is Elise Kristiansen, and I'm a front-end developer in Variant. And I've been working with front-end for 9 years, and I have seen plenty of websites that has been launched without being accessible. And that's why I have made this presentation to make it a little bit easier to remember accessibility, because I know how much people struggle with accessibility. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myself in the beginning. I am a cat mom. I know that I should have a trigger warning for human parents that I call myself a cat mom. But this is my cats, Venus and Luna. They are going to follow along with the presentation, and you might catch some glimpses of them during my presentation here and there. During COVID, I developed some terrible, terrible habits. I developed something called grandma hobbies, like reading books, painting, taking care of herbs and plants, sitting in this grandma chair, snooping at my neighbors. That's not very good. And here you can already see my cat Luna laying in the grandma chair. Luckily, I managed to keep some part of myself. So I still have girls' night in with Elder Scrolls Online, here with my friend Katarina. I have girls' night out with karaoke and Sabine here. I like to go on adventure, I like to work out. But to get to the point, because I do have a point with this way too long introduction, we need to zoom into this particular image. Some of you might recognize these screenshots from a website called Warlogs. It shows how well I have done it in a computer game called World of Warcraft. So if you see the blue number with 61.7, that's a parse. So the higher the number, the better. So I have a very average parse. I'm very mediocre, and that's okay. But I am able to play this game. Not only because I lack any severe disability that makes me unable to play a lot of other games, but also because World of Warcraft do a lot to make their games accessible for everyone. And it's now I finally come to the point of this introduction. Raise your hand if you have seen this guy before. I see a lot of hands, that's good. Keep your hand up. Are there even more people who recognize him if I tell you that his name is Mats Sten? And what if I tell you that he is also called Ibelin? Raise your hand if you recognize him now. That's a lot of hands, and that's good. For those of you who don't know him, Mats Sten was a Norwegian gamer who died of the Duchenne muscular dystrophy at the age of 25. The condition gradually made him unable to participate in everyday activities, and as a result, he spent a lot of time playing video games, particularly World of Warcraft. After his death, his parents mourned what they believed had been a lonely and isolated life. But that belief changed when they began receiving messages from online friends all over the world. Because as his character Ibelin in World of Warcraft, Mats was able to form strong relationships and deep friendships. Inside the game, he could roam freely and take part in the same activities as all the other members of his guild. He was able to live a rich and meaningful life, one where he wasn't excluded as he so often was in the physical world. He made friends from all over the globe, and after his passing, more than 50 of them contacted his family to share what Mats had meant to them. The movie about his story, The Remarkable Life of Ibelin, has won both national and international prizes and has opened up eyes about how important gaming can be and how community-driven it can be. Now, why am I telling you this? This is a talk about accessibility, after all, so some of you may already see where this is going. Because Mats Sten was not unique in that he needed assistive technologies to play a game. He was not the only person excluded from so many platforms throughout his life. Luckily for him, World of Warcraft was a game he could play despite his condition. But not all games are like that. Not all apps are like that, and not all websites are like that. As developers, we have a tendency to forget about accessibility. And when we do that, we are actively excluding people from our platforms. We are actively turning something that could have been inclusive into something exclusive. Every time we accept statements like, we don't focus on that here, or if users can't use our platform, then it's not made for them anyway, we should ask ourselves, what if Blizzard had said the same thing 15 years ago when Mats needed assistive technologies to play their game? It wouldn't have been a movie about him at all. We cannot continue to overlook our users, and we cannot allow ourselves to avoid the responsibility we have as developers. Because making sure that our products are inclusive and not actively exclusive, that's our responsibility. And I am not here to point fingers today. I'm not perfect all the time myself. I just want you to be more aware of these issues. I want you to want to make accessible websites. And my main goal today is that you remember every single WCAG issue I show you today and all the theory. I want you to remember the feeling you get from this presentation. So after this presentation, I hope you have 2 or 3 takeaways, and you can write it down on your phone or your computer, or do whatever you need to do to get the most out of a presentation. And to close off this introduction, I want to quote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Sevin. In the book, the main characters are discussing games, and one of them reflects on being sick in the hospital for years. And he says, "Sometimes I would be in so much pain. The only thing that kept me from wanting to die was the fact that I could leave my body and be in a body that worked perfectly for a while. Better than perfectly, actually, with a set of problems that were not my own." This is what development should be about. So, before we continue, we need to talk a little bit about what WCAG actually is. A little bit of theory in here, I'm sorry. So, WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it's the international standard for how we create accessible websites. WCAG is divided into 3 levels. We have A, AA, and AAA, which is easy to remember because it's the same as the battery types. So you can use that as a way to remember it. Level A is the most basic one. That's the bare minimum standard. That's about avoiding complete barriers. For example, being able to navigate using a keyboard, providing alternative text for images, and avoid relying solely on color to convey important information. If level A is not met, then your website is simply unusable for a lot of users. So that's avoiding complete barriers as a whole. So that's why we have another level, level AA, which is the legal requirement through the European Accessibility Act. And this level ensures good usability for most users. Because, the level A make sure that your content is actually accessible to users, but making sure that your website or app is actually usable and have good usability for most users, that's where you scrape away the barriers between those with disabilities and others. And then we have the AAA standard, which is the one to reach for. That's the highest level. And this includes requirements such as sign language interpretation for videos, simpler language, and even stricter color contrast. And even though it may be hard to reach the AAA standard, it is something we should reach for and try to do. And one simple way we can do that already, if we take a look at my presentation right now, it has a contrast ratio at 6.27 to 1. And that's good enough for the AA standard, but it's not good enough for the AAA standard, for small text in the AAA standard. So that's why we want to bump it up to 9.47 to 1. And from now on, this is the background color we should use in our presentation, so that we make sure that it is accessible. Because 15 to 25% of the population has some form of disability at any given time. It can be something like a sprained wrist that makes you unable to use a mouse on a computer for a short amount of time, or that your eyesight is slowly fading away. It can be cognitive, it can be physical, it can be temporary, it can be permanent. And every single one of us are going to experience having a functioning verity in some way or form. And we do that every day. When we are walking outside in the sun and looking at our phone screen, it will be harder to read. And that's when contrasts will help us all to make sure that we do read better. So accessibility isn't only for people with disabilities, it's for everyone. But 94.8% of all websites has at least one WCAG AA issue. And if you remember correctly, that wasn't the one to reach for, that's the legal requirement. So 94.8% of all websites are breaking the law. That's kind of insane. And this is the typical issues. Almost 80% of all websites has bad contrast. And then we have missing alternative text, we have missing labels, we have empty links and empty buttons. So this is a huge problem, and that's why we should finally begin. Now, let's say you have just received news that you have gotten an eyesight syndrome. You are browsing the web, trying to find information of said eyesight syndrome. You click on a link that promises answers, and this is what you get. I shouldn't even have to talk anymore, because you can just get all the information you need from my screen. What is it? You can't see anything? Maybe I forgot to click on my clicker? No? Now I know. You can't see anything because you have lost your eyesight, and this presentation just isn't made for you. I'm sorry. I can't make presentations that accommodate every need now, can we? Or maybe we should be able to. Now, welcome to the category of WCAG standards for visually impaired people. This is a website that isn't written to be accessible at all. At this worst kind of example, all the information are hidden away from the user. Maybe we have images of text that are missing alternative text, or maybe all the information are hidden away with hover effects and focus elements, etc., that you can't reach with a screen reader. We are breaking the non-text content. All visible content must have an alternative text, and interactive elements needs a role, name, and a value. For example, this is an image that doesn't have any alternative text. It's empty. It's an empty square. You can't visualize it because it doesn't have any information to give you. So to make this accessible, you just have to add some words, an alternative text, describe the image. If not, you are making people who can't see will have the experience of the black box. But if you just describe it, they will be able to visualize it and then get the same information as everyone who can't see it. Maybe, for example, if we have a newspaper, news site that have a title called, "We'll begin a war," for example, and it's a picture of a football team. So everyone who are looking at the screen know that this isn't very important, it's just some football thingy. I'm sorry for those of you who are football fans, but yeah. But those of them who can't see the screen won't get that information. For them, it can be a picture of Putin or Trump or something else. So it's important that you give all the information away that everyone who can't see also gets. But you also have to provide text that gives enough information about the context the image is in. So you can't just describe the image. And I'm sorry for my lack of Photoshop skills. I didn't want to use AI for my presentation, so I tried to use Photoshop. And I'm not very good at Photoshop either, but that's okay. But this is my cat, Venus. And you can have the descriptive text, a cat and a bird. because this is a cat and a bird. But it doesn't tell you anything about what this image is trying to tell in a context. For an article about birds that are going extinct, the image text might be bird being hunted by a cat. It tells you that the cat is a predator to the bird and gives you some information about why the image is there. But for an article about a cat's behavior, the image text might be cat hunting a bird for fun. So it changes. And we have the same for icons. Do any of you know what this is an icon of? No, you don't, because it's an empty square. And I can tell you that it's not a cat, it's actually a bear. But you wouldn't know that because it didn't have any title or ARIA label. But if you just add some words about what you are showing the people who are using screen readers will get the same information. Oh, we should bump up the contrast. There we go. So now you are clicking on another link, trying to find more information, and finally you find a page that actually has text on it so that you can reach with a screen reader. But your experience with that screen reader and the website is like this. Because this site isn't properly written with the correct HTML tags. You have to take the important information and wrap them around the appropriate tags. And my best tip here is that every time you want to use another div, just try to think about another tag to use. Use p tags for paragraphs, use nav tags for navigations. It's so much easier to find all the important information once you have written the document properly. There are tons of different HTML tags to use out there. We developers are way too lazy when we build websites, and a ton of problems and issues would have been solved if we had just used the correct HTML tag from the very beginning. We tend to fall back to using divs for everything, even for titles and links, and we just put onclicks on them and try to style them like we want to. And this problem isn't getting any better with more common use of AI, because AI has already learned our mistakes. We have misused HTML for so many years that AI is just copying that and making the problem even worse. Because AI is very bad at front-end code and is very bad at making accessible websites. So they also create divs for everything and put weird-ass classes on the top of everything to make sure it looks right. But you shouldn't have to do that. So you have to make sure that you actually have the right HTML tag and that you use the rich language of HTML. So I'm not going to talk about every single HTML tag that is out there, but I will try to give you a quick explanation about how titles work, because that's one of the most common mistakes people do, because the different numbers in the heading tags are for semantic and structure and not for styling, as so many people use them for. Every page on a site needs at least one heading 1 tag, and only one. You shouldn't have multiple, because that's the main title of the page. And every title that comes after the heading 1, if you are introducing a new theme, you should have a heading 2, not another heading 1. That's the subtitle to the main title. And if you have a subtitle connected to the heading 2 tag, you should introduce it with a heading 3, and so on and so on. I usually don't need more than heading 1, 2, and 3, and sometimes 4, but you can use heading 5 and 6 as well. So this is an example. Let's say we have an article about animal breeds. Then we have a sub-theme under animal breeds that is dogs. And for every new theme under dogs, which are the different dog breeds, we introduce it with a heading 3. And let's say we have written a paragraph under each of the golden retriever and chihuahua. And then we move on to cats. And cats are not a dog breed, obviously. So that's another heading 2 tag. It's a new theme. And then we have a cat breed under cats that is Bengals. Did anyone say Bengals? Sorry, I just love showing off my cats. And get all the attention back, because I know it's a lot of theory. So we are going to talk a little bit about contrast as well. So I'm not going to focus that much on talking about the AAA standard today, because we should at least try to have the AA standard met before we are moving on to the AAA standard. But I feel like for contrast, it's so much easier to try to reach for the AAA standard. So I can show you the difference between the AAA standard and the AA standard. The AA has a contrast ratio requirement at 3:1 for large text and 4.5:1 for small text. And it might be a little bit hard to read this text already for a lot of people. And if you see the difference to the AAA standard, a large text has 4.5:1, and for small text, 7:1. It's not that difficult to try to just change the colors a little bit to make sure that you reach the AAA standard. And it makes a lot of difference. Now, yell out if you see a number. You can raise a hand also if you see a number. You see a number? Do you want to tell me what it is? 31? That's very interesting, because I know people are seeing different numbers here because colors are perceived so differently from person to person. And I wanted to use this example because I have two brothers who are both colorblind. Both of them have a type of colorblindness that shows the number 73. And I asked them in different conversations that they didn't interact with each other. And they have been showing these kinds of images all their lives and throughout their lives, during school, etc., where they couldn't see a number, but everyone who didn't have colorblindness could see a number. And people were laughing, oh, can't you see the number? And that's why I wanted to finally use an image where we who don't have colorblindness can't see the number, but they can, finally. And it is very interesting to see how different we see colors. And this is a conversation between me and my little brother. He found a filter on TikTok where he said something like, oh, I don't see any difference in this filter versus the real world. And I tried to take a selfie, as you can see here, a little bit cringy selfie, where I think I look very green, or yellow-green-ish, and very alien-like. And I took a selfie and sent it to him, and I asked, is this how I look in your eyes? And he said, yeah, ish. It made your hair paler and gave your hand an orange tint. I was like, orange tint? I can't see the orange tint at all. But beside that, yes. And this is very interesting to me because it shows that you can't use color as an only way to give important information. Some of you might think that the green text on the red background is the one that is easiest to read, and some other people might think it's the red on the red. But both of them have the exact same contrast ratio. And if you put a grayscale on it, it will be even harder to read the green one, even though it might be easier on the last slide. So now we have been through non-text content, info and relationships, headings and labels, and use of colors. And of course also contrast. Nå skal vi snakke litt om språkbarrierer. Så av språk-WCAG-standard så har vi språk på siden, og så har vi språk på deler av siden. Og nå tror jeg kanskje det er noen som ikke helt forstår hva jeg sier. Det er noen som forstår hva jeg sier, og det burde jo egentlig være nok. Ja, det er flott å se at noen forstår hva jeg sier. Men dette her er jo en internasjonal konferanse, så jeg burde kanskje få fikset litt på dette her. Language-taggen er satt til norsk. La oss bare endre på den. There we go. Now, let's begin again. Language barriers. All websites must have a correct language attribute that specifies which language the content is written in. This helps screen readers read the text with the correct voice and pronunciation. So for this English page, we should have an English language tag. But then we have this little section down on the page that is in a different language. It's in Norwegian. That's why we have language of parts as well. So if we put a language attribute on that section, the screen reader will be able to switch between English and Norwegian and back to English again. And that was language of page and language of parts. Our next topic is motoric problems, especially the ability to use your keyboard when you can't use a mouse on a computer, which is a common problem. Website. 2. Navigation. How? A. Experience. 4. 2. Isn't. Is. This. Keyboard. It. That. Developed. Now, what does all of this mean? This is how it is to experience a website that isn't developed for keyboard navigation. Now, this is 2 buttons. We have a back button and then we have a next button. And when we are using a keyboard, we want to reach the back button first and then the next button afterwards. But we have a tendency to code this very badly. And as you can see here, this is a div with an on-click on it. And that's one common issue, that we, again, as I said earlier, use the wrong HTML tag when we are trying to code and when we are building things. So I know that a lot of people would have solved this, because right now, people using keyboard are totally disconnected from this button. They can't reach it at all. And I know people would have solved this by just adding a tab index to this and make it reachable by a keyboard. But you shouldn't have to use hacks to solve problems that would have been solved by just using the right HTML tag. Again, HTML already takes care of so much of this logic. This might seem like a silly example, but it is something that can occur nonetheless if the person developing isn't aware of these issues. Because forcing absolute positioning may be the only way people know how to position an element. I have seen websites with or web apps, and I've had code reviews on apps where everything was positioned by absolute positioning. And it was a nightmare. And he didn't care where the code was in the code, the HTML code. He had just typed out everything and placed it all around. And then the tab navigation will be very weird. Right in this example, we will reach the next button first and then the back button. So you have to actually do the work and try to use the right way of positioning elements. But also, you have to have the back button first and then the next button. This is a more common example and mistake people do. I have seen this plenty of times as well. Let's say it might seem weird when it's only a back button and the next button. But let's say we have a banner, a big banner where we have an image with some buttons on it on one side and a menu on the other side, and it looks very nice. So, but then the designer asks you, can you just switch position of this, of the content in the heading? So you just put a flex direction row reverse on it because it makes it look right, and it's an easy way to fix your problem. But you have to actually copy-paste the content and make sure that it is in the right order, because flex direction row reverse doesn't change the order of the tab navigation. So that is very important. It's a hack, again, and don't use hacks. Visible focus. Keyboard users need to know where they are on the page. And if you don't have any visible focus, it will be the experience of the website will be kind of like this. You don't know where you are, and you're just all over the place. So this will create awareness of where the user are on the page. It prevents accidental actions. It will help people with low vision as well. and help screen reader users who look at the screen, because there are actually a lot of people who are using screen readers but can't see. Because maybe they don't know how to read or don't know the language, so they're using screen readers for that as well. So basically, it benefits everyone. Now, this is how it is to experience a website that is developed for keyboard navigation. So now we have been through keyboard, 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 keyboard. Oh, there we go. We was stuck in a keyboard trap. So users must not get stuck in any component when navigating with a keyboard. Character key shortcuts, focus order, and focus visible. And again, I told you I was going to repeat myself on this matter. Please use the right HTML tag. Attention and distraction, and this is my favorite segment. Read everything on this page, 1, 2, 3. That was all the time I got, I'm sorry. I was a little bit on the nose, I'm sorry. Bit predictable. Users must be able to extend, adjust, and disable time limits. This will be reducing stress caused by time pressure, allowing slower processing and decision-making, preventing loss of progress due to timeouts, and support users with ADHD, anxiety, and other functioning challenges. Pause, stop, and hide. Users must be able to pause, stop moving, blinking, scrolling, or auto-updating content. And this will be supporting cognitive needs by reducing distractions that break concentration, allowing users to process information at their own pace, prevent cognitive overload caused by constant motion, create a calmer and more predictable reading environment. There we go. I need to focus very hard when I'm reading this page because I get so distracted myself. But was it hard to get what I was saying right now when there were so many distractions? A little bit. That's the goal here. Because the main goal, yes, you should remember some of it. That's a positive thing if you do. But the main goal isn't that you remember every single thing I say. It is that you remember the experience so that you avoid making these issues yourself. 3 flashes or below threshold. And I didn't want to exemplify this particular issue because then I would have to make my presentation blink. And that would be a problem because flashing content can cause migraines, dizziness, nausea, and epileptic seizures. So avoid content that flashes or keep it under threshold. It also prevents overstimulation, panic responses, and cognitive fatigue. So that's nice. And that was attention and distraction. Timing adjustable, pause, stop, and hide, and 3 flashes or below threshold. Now, our next topic is understanding memory and orientation. And this is a very huge topic, so I have to scope it down. And we will focus right now on forms. And forms is also a very huge topic. And there's a whole segment for forms under 3.3 in the WCAG standards. But we are going to talk about some of the more typical issues. So, for forms, you need to have a clear and visible label. And it needs to be an input field, a real input field. And the reason why you need this label, even though you have a very descriptive and nice placeholder text, is because people who are struggling with concentration and memory will have a hard time remember what they were supposed to write in this text field. For example, maybe I begin typing my first name, and then I begin to ask myself, were they asking for my first name or my full name, or maybe even my last name? I don't remember. So that's why if you just add a little label that says full name on top of it, it will help so many people understand what they are supposed to write. Should we accept this? How about now? It's probably something important, right? I know I struggle with concentration. I know that I have probably read what I was supposed to accept somewhere on this page. but I have lost track of it. And I know that this is a me problem, so I should probably just accept it just in case. We will see what we were accepting soon. So checkboxes and radio buttons need to be actual checkboxes and radio buttons written as input fields. They need to be accessible by both a mouse and a keyboard, and screen readers and people who can't see need to know exactly what they are accepting and selecting. So what you are accepting must be clear. And in this example, we have multiple different issues. The question is not fully written out, and it's in a heading tag and in a heading 3 tag, which is also very weird, and it doesn't tell me anything. The label doesn't say anything of use, it only says yes. So I don't know anything, and the input field and the label field aren't even connected together. So now we get to see what we were accepting. I henceforth acquaintance to the blood term set upon my soul and person to the Broligarchy Empire. Oh shit. Well, at least it's written out. Now we know what we are accepting. And they are connected together with an ID and a 4. So that's nice, right? Very well, let's continue. Here are some more important WCAG rules for forms, and there are a whole segment under 3.3 as well that you should check out. Another common mistake when making a website that is understandable and easy to navigate is to use icons as an only way to for a link, for example. And even if you do put an ARIA label on this, it will still cause problems for a lot of users. And there's no important WCAG rules that it breaks, but I think we should talk about it nonetheless, because I think it's a very important topic. Because different people have different associations to an icon. Let's say that this backpack is the only visible element in a link, in a top menu, for example. So for some people, there are clear and obvious places a backpack will take you. But the problem is that different people have different associations to this backpack. And I have asked around a little bit, and a backpack can represent traveling and take you to a traveling page. Maybe it can mean adventure, even work. Some people only use backpacks for work. Maybe some people think that it's a marketplace for example, a Facebook marketplace or something, where you can sell backpacks. A friend of mine even said frisbee golf when I asked him. So let's use a house as an example, since that's a more commonly used icon for illustrating homepage. Oh, not that kind of house. There we go. If you add a word or two about where the link is taking you, that is actually visible for everyone and not only those with a screen reader, it will help so many people who don't have the same associations to a house icon as you. Let's say maybe old Martha has lived in an apartment for her whole life and has never lived in a house. She does not associate a house with a home. Maybe she thinks that it's a link to go buy houses, or that it's a link to a store, maybe. So I think that LinkedIn is a great example of how this can be done, even though some of you might think that Facebook, the one on the top, is the most pretty example. LinkedIn one is the one that is easiest to use. And user experience is about making sure that your user are actually able to navigate your page, not only that it looks pretty. And now we have come to the very last segment of this presentation, hearing impairments. Can you hear me? A little bit? Okay, that's good. Should I talk like this for the rest of the presentation? No, probably not. Now, this is how it is to experience a website that has information that are only available by sound for every person with hearing impairments. And also every person who are, for example, sitting in an open space without headphones, or for some other reason can't use sound on their device. It's empty. And now we are going to watch a video that I made in iMovie. And spoiler alert, I can't use iMovie either, but so I have tried my best. And this is how it is to experience. I'm going to say some very important information in this video, and you should try to catch what I'm saying. Now, did you hear anything? Thank you. Did any of you hear anything? No, you didn't, because this wasn't coded correctly. So this segment especially applies to videos. Oh, we have forgotten something, a label. Now, this segment applies to videos. And there are three main WCAG issues that applies to videos. We have captions for pre-recorded videos, we have captions for live videos, and then we have sign language for pre-recorded videos. And we aren't going to focus on the AAA standard today, but I just wanted to tell you that it's there. So for captions on pre-recorded videos, we have this little checklist. The video has to have captions in VTT format. The text has to be both visible and optional for the user. It needs to cover both speech and important sounds. And the language has to be marked. And I'll show you a code example of this. You can add as many tracks as you want to, but the important part is that you at least have the track for the language that you are talking in the video, so that you don't exclude the people who should have been able to get the information from your video. So you add this track, kind captions, give it a source, captions en.vtt, for example, and give it a source language, English. And now we will take a closer look on the captions. It says 00000 to 00000 2.5, 00. And then there are going to be a drum roll. And then I will say from 2.5 seconds to 5 seconds, I will say hello and welcome to this very informative video. I told you it was very informative. And then I'm going to say, today we're going to talk about accessibility, and then there will be some silly background music. So now that we have coded it correctly, let's see how the video is supposed to be. Hello, and welcome to this very informative video. Today we are going to talk about accessibility. Oh, I love iMovie. So now that was the experience when the video is actually coded correctly. You get to experience the video. You get to get the same information as everyone else. So for captions on live videos, we also have a checklist. This isn't that fun of a segment as the last one, but yeah, we have a checklist. It needs to be real time. It needs to be accurate enough to follow the event. Available during the broadcast, and also include both speech and important sounds. So I have two examples of how this can be done. You can use a real-time captioning service. For example, a television studio uses real-time captioning service to create caption for its evening news online. And my second example is the use of CART. Let's say a user watches an online seminar on their own mobile device, including captioning provided through the use of Communication Access Real-Time Translation, CART. The captions provided also benefits in-person participants who need captioning and can view the information on their own device. So let's say, for example, the YouTube stream, maybe that has captions that is in real time, so that if there are some people who can't hear me right now, maybe they can watch the stream on their phone and see the captions right then and there. And that was captions for pre-recorded videos and live videos, and also the end of my very last segment. But I do still have some small things you can do. I want everyone to take some easy courses. There are plenty of easily accessible courses out there that can be done in just a few hours of the workday, and they are definitely worth the investment. You should also use a scanner on your project. I use something called Pally. So every time I have pushed some new code, etc., I take it through the scanner Pally. And there are so many different scanners you can use, so that's just my recommendation. You should also download and add a scanner to your pipeline. That's a bigger thing you can do. So maybe not all projects that maybe you are not able to do that on every project, but you should try it out on some small project in the beginning and then add it to more bigger eventually when you are more used to using PalyCI. For example, PalyCI, that's the one I use. And you should learn to use a screen reader, because a common mistake we do is that we think that our users are experts themselves, but they are not. David, a 75-year-old who just started to go blind but has never worked on a computer in his whole life, doesn't have any better prerequisites than you to know how to navigate a screen reader. You are the expert. You are the one who are working with computers. You are the one who has made the application. And if you can't use a screen reader on your own project, how is David supposed to do that? And the very last thing, keep the design simple. Because a common thing is that we think that accessibility is so expensive and it's so hard, and it creates these huge discussions among the team. Where should we prioritize accessibility? Yes, you should, because a black and a white website in Times New Roman without any design at all is way better than a website that isn't accessible, because it doesn't exclude anyone from using it. And if you are still making web apps and websites that actively discriminate people from using them, I will look at you like this. I am only sort of kidding, because I'm not perfect myself all the time. I make mistakes, but I try my very best to not do that. And that's what I want for you as well. I want you to want to make accessible websites. I want you to have some form of takeaway from this presentation. I want you to remember my annoying voice when you are creating websites, when I was making all these mistakes. And, oh, wasn't it something about post up and hide or something? Yeah, it was. So this is my main goal. So I hope you have gotten some form of takeaway from this presentation. Thank you very much. You can, if you want to contact me on Slack, this is my name, Elise Kristiansen, and I also am on the NDC Slack, and this is my profile picture. So if you try to find an Elise Kristiansen and this is all you find, that's me. And if you want to, you can also add some feedback to this QR code as well. So yeah, thank you.